Hey everyone, I'm back again with another video, and this one is a two-story video, so be sure to stick around for the second story as well. The first one is titled, Discovered I Am Not My Daughter's Biological Father. Please make sure you like the video and subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Let's get right into it. I just found out my 15-year-old daughter is not my biological child. My daughter was preparing for a family tree project for an online class and wanted an ancestry test. My father is half Native American, but he passed away several years ago, and I don't know precisely what Native American blood is in the family. My daughter came to me because it was my father, and we didn't mention it to her mother at the time. Well, it turned out my daughter doesn't have any Native American blood. The obvious conclusion didn't occur to me at first because the truth of the situation didn't seem possible. I assumed there was a mistake. My first thought was that my father hadn't been part of Native Americans. So I took the test and everything became apparent. It was a very emotional situation for me and my daughter. What I will remember the most was after she started crying, she hugged so tightly and just kept saying over and over, "I love you, Daddy." At home, I confronted my wife and she looked like she'd had a stroke. She started crying and apologizing. You can probably imagine it. My wife and I got married because she was pregnant. We had been together for more than a year when it happened. It turns out she was sleeping with multiple guys at the time. She says it didn't mean anything and she doesn't even remember some of their names. When she realized she was pregnant, she said she wasn't sure who the father was. Since I was unaware of her extracurricular activities, she let me believe I was the father because I was the most financially stable. In terms of that, she may have chose correctly. I have been very successful in my career, and building passive income streams has been a hobby of mine for a long time. My daughter got my wife to admit to this on tape as my daughter records the whole thing. I asked my wife several times and she keeps insisting that she has been faithful for the entire time we have been married. I've never suspected anything, but I also didn't realize she was sleeping around before we got married, so I've said I don't believe her. I've come across a lot of red flags of cheaters and I can't think of any of them during our marriage. She doesn't use social media and she has never been guarded about her phone. She only drinks on special occasions and doesn't go out for girls' night or anything. Also, she's a stay-at-home wife/mom, so here aren't any co-workers to worry about. She exercises at home as we have a very nice home gym. I don't believe her when she says she hasn't cheated after getting married, but I can't think of anything suspicious. We have a prenup, so I'm not worried about divorce if it comes to that. My daughter is another story. She's absolutely livid about the whole situation. I know teenagers can be emotional. I certainly remember how I was at her age. But she never has been very expressive, something I thought she got from me. Nature versus nurture? My daughter can't stand to be around her mother. She said some truly awful things to her mother. Basically, variations of calling her a dirty S who ruined our family. Whenever my wife tries to talk to her, my daughter yells and swears and cries like I have never seen before. Christmas is coming up and my daughter is demanding my wife leave the house until after New Year's so she can spend time with her real family, meaning me. My daughter has even come to me privately saying that in the event of divorce, she wants to stay with me. She has even asked if it is possible to disown her mother and be adopted by me. I haven't told this to my wife. My wife is preparing to leave for her parents' house for the holidays. My wife and I had talked about the situation, but have decided to wait until after New Year's to make any decisions. I admit I'm grateful she agreed to leave because honestly, I need some time to process this. I think I'm writing this as a way to just come to terms with everything that has happened. And the OP has an edit for us. After writing this post, I fell asleep for a few hours. I came back to the post after about 10 hours and realized there were more than 200 messages. Thanks to everyone who took the time to comment, it means a lot. Additionally, thanks to all of you for compassion and kind comments. I was touched by the displays of support, and I'm not ashamed to say I shed a few tears. I still haven't read every message, but know I intend to whether or not I respond to yours specifically. I want to address two consistent things mentioned in the comments. I've had a DNA test. After our ancestry tests were different due to her lack of Native American blood, we got proper DNA tests. That was when I confronted my wife. Looking back at the original post, I'm sorry for not making that clear. I have made it clear in no uncertain terms that she is my daughter and I am her father regardless of the situation. I've reiterated to her repeatedly that she can stay with me and I will never leave her. Several comments suggested she might be scared I will leave her or want nothing more to do with her. Nothing could be further from the truth, and I tell her every day. And our second story is titled, Daughter's Drunk Confession Turned My Whole World Upside Down and Current Circumstances Make It Even Worse. Let's get right into it. My wife and I have been together for 25 years but married for 19. We are high school sweethearts and have 2 amazing kids, a daughter and a son. I was honestly under the impression that we had a solid marriage, that our relationship wouldn't be like our friends and colleagues and would actually stand the test of time. Now, I see how spectacularly naive and wrong I was. My wife has been a stay-at-home mom for most of our adult lives, something we both agreed, but after our kids went to college, she began feeling restless. Empty nest syndrome, I guess. She would tell me she was feeling unfulfilled and felt like she had lost sense of who she was. I tried recommending hobbies we could do together, places we could visit, or even adopting puppies if that would help, and at first she was all for it, but soon began saying she wanted to feel like she was contributing and not simply coasting through life. I understood and was willing to support her. She never liked sitting still, so I kind of expected it. She complained to a few friends, and one of them actually managed to get her an interview at a real estate firm. She used to work in one before having the kids, and I was just as excited as she was when she accepted it. In the beginning, things were going great, but after the first year I noticed some changes. She started going to drink-ups with coworkers, began texting a lot more than usual when at home and at odd hours at night. She even started wearing a particular type of perfume and would wear more suggestive clothing. Nothing too revealing or bad, but clothing that complemented her body figure a lot more than usual. But what made me suspicious was when I accidentally saw a message from a male coworker on her phone. Wasn't snooping, which seemed to be a highly inappropriate and flirtatious. I asked about it, and I could tell she was slightly shaken, but assured me he was simply a friend and she would talk to him about his inappropriate messages. Me, not wanting to be paranoid, jealous, and controlling husband, chose to believe her and let it go. Oh, how I wish I didn't. Her behavior got more strange as time went on. She started mentioning how she wanted to be more spontaneous with life and even picked up smoking. I made jokes about how she seemed to be living the same college lifestyle as our kids and suggested she slow down. But she dropped an absolute boom when she mentioned in a drunken state after another night of going out that maybe I dim her lights and hold her back. I was completely blindsided by this and really believed I was messing up somehow, so I tried to do everything to improve the marriage, even booked counseling, but it went nowhere. Then out of the blue, that strange behavior stopped. My wife apologized for the way she had acted. She said it was like she forgot who she was, but realized what she had at home and knew she didn't want to lose it. She resigned from her job and we began marriage counseling. It was tough initially, but things improved immensely, and for the 2 years of our marriage was better than ever. She was more attentive, she initiated intimacy more, and would shower with me with affection. The only problem is that her relationship with our daughter seemed to be in a nosedive. I would question my wife about it, and she would tell me it was a growing phase or a woman thing, and once again I would take her word for it. Funny thing is, during this period, my relationship with my daughter improved. She would call a lot more, meet me for coffee or lunch often during the week, and even bought me gifts, t-shirts and stuff. I always told her it wasn't necessary, but she insisted, and I could always tell she wanted to say something but would hold her tongue. Tragedy struck one evening as my wife was returning from doing groceries and she was hit by a drunk driver. She unfortunately lost the use of legs and has been wheelchair bound ever since. Things got really bad and she would make suggestions of me sleeping with other women, to which I obviously refused. I just choked it up to her depression and reminded her that I was here to stay because I loved her more than the situation. This actually made her cry and asked me why I was so good to her, or what did she do to deserve me. Again, I choked it up to depression and just tried to help her as best as I can. Sometime later, we went for our medical checkups at the doctor, and the doctor sat us down to inform us that they found a mass in my wife's throat. It was of an unusual size, and because it may be dangerous, they have to do a biopsy. My first reaction was shock, whereas my wife was just blank at first, then she started laughing. It started small, then became hysterical as she began mumbling that this was for punishment. We managed to calm her down, but she requested that before the biopsy we could do a family dinner. I of course agreed, and we had our kids and immediate family over. I made a speech about how my wife was the light of my life and how we'd get through this, but at the end of my speech I noticed my daughter was rather uncomfortable. I thought that maybe it was because of what was going on that made her feel that way. The next evening, my daughter phoned me drunk, begging me not to hate her. At first I was confused, but reassured her that I would never hate her because she's my little girl and I will always love her. At those words, she goes on to tell me how she caught her mother cheating on me with a man she had never seen before. It was during my wife's time at a real estate firm. My daughter goes on a road trip with some friends and decided to pass by a diner they don't normally frequent to get a bite, and that's where she saw her mother lip-locked with a man that looked nothing like me. Apparently, this was why their relationship deteriorated and ours improved. I confronted my wife, and to her credit, she didn't deny it. Through tears, she confirmed it was the co-worker from the messages and says it was the dumbest thing she has ever done. She said he was always coming onto her and eventually wore down her walls. She tells me getting caught by our daughter made her realize the gravity of what she was doing. She wanted to take it to the grave because she never wanted to hurt me and was too much of a coward to confess, so she begged our child not to tell me. I am absolutely shattered at the revelation and don't know what to do. I now question every aspect of our relationship and wonder where I went wrong. She tells me I was a good husband and that none of this is on me. The problem is, since that time, I haven't been loving towards her. I still care for her, but it's more like a nurse does with a patient rather than a husband to his wife. If I leave her, she will be completely stranded. She's dependent on me both financially and emotionally, and it seems immensely unfair. Sorry if this seems all over the place, but I am a mess right now. Thank you guys for watching. Please make sure you like the video and subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell so you don't miss any of our future videos, and be sure to comment below what other subreddits you want me to cover.